London, guys. Today's vlog starting opposite the Houses of Parliament at the statue of Mahatma Gandhi. The reason for that is today London is celebrating Diwali, which is an Indian Hindu festival of light. It celebrates the victory of light over darkness, good over evil, knowledge over stupidity, the Jedi over the dark side. You get the idea. But yeah, so today's video, the vlog, is going to be inspired by all things Indian. I'm going to take you to one of London's hidden gems, the India Club, and go and check out the Diwali celebrations in Trafalgar Square. You might wonder why there's a statue of Mahatma Gandhi in Parliament Square opposite the Houses of Parliament, but he was a man that spent his entire life, well, his political career, opposing the British government. But he was right and hugely influential in Indian and British history, politics, British foreign policy, and ultimately the independence of India from British rule. So yeah, he takes his place amongst other political figures in Parliament Square. My favourite one's Winston Churchill. It looks like a bulldog about to storm into the Houses of Parliament, which he probably would. He'd be furious today. For those of you not British, not Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, I'll give you a brief history of British-Indian relations and why we celebrate Diwali here. Primarily it's because we've got a large Indian community here. People often question how Britain has such good relations with countries and people it's treated pretty atrociously in the past. Diplomacy goes a long way. Whereas I guess countries like America try and bulldoze forward and rewrite history, we stop, hold our hands up, say sorry, build a statue or memorial, and revisit it every year on important anniversaries. Might sound simplistic, but it works. So we have good relations with India, Pakistan, Bangladesh still. It's been a love-hate relationship for centuries. So yeah, the history of the countries dates back hundreds of years. Home of the Prime Minister, heavily guarded, super popular with tourists. So yeah, hundreds of years, Britain's had a love for all things Indian, especially spices, tea, cotton. So trade was established hundreds of years ago. By the late 1500s, early 1600s, it's a well-established trade route. The East Indies Trading Company was established not initially to deal with India, but that's what it primarily ended up doing. It went on to become enormous. It was at one point conducting or involved in half the entire world's trade. Had his fingers in a lot of pies. So yeah, you've got a huge company with huge vested interest in India. It didn't set out to rule India, to be involved in politics at all. It was it's a commercial company based here in London with shareholders which weren't the British government, would have just been wealthy investors here in Britain. And it may have had politicians as investors because they would have been wealthy, but yeah, the government had no stake in it. So it's trading with India. A lot of things led to it ending up with a controlling stake in India. To cut it quite very short, the French wanted in on the action. The East India Company and the French and the then Mughal rulers start private armies, effectively. They go to war, and the East India Company won. Tourist central here, weaving. We're getting up over here by bus. So having a rear view mirror. What was I saying? Yeah, so the East India Trading Companies won effectively a battle between France and the then Mughal rulers, and takes a control of a huge chunk of India. Now, its control continued, and obviously a commercial company based thousands of miles away here in England, months away by boat, is a disaster waiting to happen. And like all things, greed, corruption ensued. Word spread back here to London that there was money involved in going to India, so a lot of people went to India. British at the time were too fragile to handle the heat. And the tropical diseases, many died, and people from the diseases, the heat, culture shock. But yeah, their discontent among Indian people understandably grew and grew until eventually they revolted against British rule, the East India Company's control. So I think the final straw was over some grease for guns they'd given their private army, which was manned by the Indian population. So I think they gave them grease that was animal fat. The Muslims were concerned it would be the fat of a pig. The Hindus concerned it would be the fat of a cow, and there was a revolution. Eventually the British got that under control. It was the final straw for the British government, and the British government took control of the East India Company, took control of its assets, effectively dissolved it, and ended the British government are then ruling India. And that didn't solve the problems that had led to revolution, kind of made them worse. But the government obviously had a tighter grip than the East India Company did. Mahatma Gandhi, where we started, was instrumental and was a voice for the freedom and the independence of India, but there were many. And there was also rising division between Hindus and Muslims. It's difficult to do this while weaving in and out of people and traffic. Right, we're coming here in a little while to Trafalgar Square to check out the Diwali celebrations, but first I'm going to head up the Strand to the India Club. It's by the High Commission of India. We'll go and check out, we'll go and get some lunch in one of London's hidden gems, and then come back to the Diwali festival there. So where have I got to? Yeah, the calls for Indian independence got louder and louder. World War I and World War II, Britain was heavily reliant on Indian manpower, troops for its armies. World War II, it pretty much had to promise India independence. It was one, again, there's no one event that caused one outcome. The call for independence had been going on for, you know, centuries, decades. So yeah, independence was promised, arranged for summer of 1947. Obviously it took a while to organise post World War II, but also to address the divisions, the call for an independent state for Hindus and Muslims. Not only was India as it was given independence, it was split into Pakistan and India at the same time. Pakistan being Muslim, India being Hindu, and that's when Britain's involvement, I wouldn't say ended, but their direct involvement came to a close, and the rest is history. So yeah, I'm going to head up here and then head back down there. The club we're going to, the India Club, was founded at the time of Indian independence. The High Commission of India wasn't founded, but obviously needed restructuring. The whole political system in India needed to be restructured to remove British control. So a new High Commissioner was brought into office, and he, the first High Commissioner of the independent state of India, founded the club we're going to in 1946. So obviously it was a home from home for Indian diplomats and visitors, and it's literally across the road from the Indian High Commission. The first Prime Minister was one of the founding members of the club, first Indian Prime Minister, Nehru. So yeah, it's got a long and distinguished past. They describe themselves as charming and eclectic. Critics describe it as austere because it looks like a 1950. It hasn't changed since it opened, but barely. The only change they've had to make are for health and safety reasons. So it looks like a 1950s Indian cafe, colonial cafe, and yeah, it's pretty cool. But you'd never know, you'd never find this place. Traditionally, it's pretty much been frequented by, still is frequented by diplomats and staff of the Indian High Commission and students from the nearby London School of Economics, because it's not fancy, it's pretty inexpensive, but the menu hasn't changed a great deal either, so it still sells. It's one of the few places you can probably find actual traditional, authentic Indian cooking. So that is where we're headed. It's just a short walk up from Trafalgar Square, so yeah, I'll get back to you in a moment. Let's get on with this this walk. Okay, I'm at the end of the Strand now. Water bridge there. This is called Aldwych. Got Somerset House there. Now the India Club is just here, but I'll show you quickly how close it is to the High Commission of India, which is the first commissioner was responsible for setting up the club. It's in a tiny little doorway there. We'll come back to that in a moment. Indian High Commission, India House, and we just walked down India Place. Probably the back doors of this place will lead very closely out to the India Club, where we're going to get lunch.
Here in India Place, next to the Indian High Commission, is a statue, a bust of Nehru. Nehru was born in India in 1889. He was educated here in England, first at Harrow School, then Trinity College, Cambridge. Studied law at Inner Temple here in London, before returning to India to practice law.
Nehru was actually one of the founding members of the India Club.
After Nehru's return to India in 1919, he became a member of the Indian National Congress, who were fighting for greater independence from British colonial rule. He would have been heavily influenced by the organisation's leader, Mahatma Gandhi. He was reportedly repeatedly imprisoned by the British for civil disobedience. He went on to become the Indian National Congress's president in 1928, and post-World War II was seen as the natural successor to Mahatma Gandhi as leader. He then went on to play a huge and influential role in the negotiations of the independence of India from Britain. He was opposed to the separation based on religious grounds, but the British saw it as the fastest and simplest solution.
Okay, this building here, that is the India Club. The reason it's one of London's hidden gems is that is the entrance. You'd never guess there's an Indian restaurant in there. It's a hotel as well.
There are some glorious hotels in London, especially on this street. However, today I'm taking you to the Hotel Strand Continental. Now, admittedly, it's well beyond its glory years. A few decades beyond. If they spent some money on this place, it could be a fantastic, fabulous boutique hotel, but they haven't. If they hired a competent cleaner and a painter and decorator, it would be okay, but it gets absolutely destroyed as a hotel on popular internet review sites. It's dilapidated. However, the restaurant and bar are a different story. They're like a shrine, a monument to the 1940s, to India and the era of Indian independence. Welcome to the India Club. Founded originally as a club in 1946 by the first Indian High Commissioner to Britain, Krishna Menon. The club counts India's first Prime Minister following independence as a founder member, and Lady Mountbatten, the wife of the last Viceroy of British ruled India, who became the first Governor General of the newly independent India, Lord Mountbatten. It was a meeting place for diplomats, politicians and expats, and I would imagine many meetings happened here regarding India and Pakistan's independence plans and progress. I would imagine being this close to the Indian High Commission here in London, it still is. It looks like little has changed since 1946. There are portraits of leading Indian independence figures lining the far wall. And what the India Club is renowned for is that little has changed. History and authenticity in both the surroundings and the menu and the food. I've got myself a Masala tea to start. We are just across the road from the edge of Covent Garden here. In fact, if we look out the window, you can almost see the theatres. Covent Garden's home to many restaurants and bars and many modern Indian restaurants which fuse styles and cultures, which I love. However, the India Club is more traditional. It's the kind of menu and food you would find in an authentic colonial cafe circa 1946 in southern India, not London. Possibly the biggest change to the India Club has happened in recent years. It is a bring your own restaurant, so you can bring your own alcohol, but traditionally they didn't actually serve alcohol. Now they serve alcohol themselves too, so you can bring your own alcohol, or they have beers on tap and wine. What I've ordered, the main dish in the centre of the table is a masala dosa, which is a dosa wrap stuffed with potatoes, onions, chilies and spices. That comes with the sambar and this coconut chutney. I'm going to use them without the dosa, but I've got mixed bhajis, so chilies deep fried and some onions deep fried. I've got a dal, a naan bread and a plain rice. Now, the waiter warned me the chilies were hot, which concerns me because he's Indian and I'm not. Okay, this dish is a masala dosa, so dosa type bread wrapped around primarily potato with a little onion, chilies and spices. Now, it actually comes with the samba, so the vegetable stew, and the coconut chutney to dip it in to spice it up a little bit. But I quite like them plain, so I'm going to have the samba like a soup. The samba is also available as a small or large dish here too. And I'm going to have the coconut chutney with the bhajis and maybe to cool down some of the other dishes. But yeah, basically potato and bread with a little spices. It's delicious. Okay, next up I've got some dal, some plain rice, and I'm going to have that with, I've got a plain naan bread, maybe mix a little bit of the coconut chutney in there too. There are dishes on the menu here you'll struggle to find anywhere else in London, not because they're modern, quite the opposite. It's traditional regional food from southern India. It's also great value for money, and we're pretty close to the LSE, the London School of Economics here. So during the week you'll also get academics and students in from the school, because it's great food but it's also great value for money. I'm enjoying tea with my meal today, however I know a lot of Brits love beer, wine or something stronger with their curry. As I said, this is a bring your own restaurant, so you can bring your own booze. It was traditionally just bring your own, they didn't serve alcohol. You were welcome to bring your own, however. Today they serve beers and wine, but it is still bring your own. Now they've got some great beers, but if you're after wine there's a limited selection, so I'd definitely take them up on their bring your own offer. Apparently when this was just bring your own, the hotel bar, which is one flight down and today open to everyone, at the time was a members club, so you'd be sent down there to get a beer and have to take out a lifetime's membership, which costs just a few pounds. So that club's probably got more lifetime members than any other club in town. Okay, all the food I've had today at the India Club was delicious. I definitely recommend a trip to the India Club if you're in London. Great food, great value for money, and great service. I wish I could show you the waiting staff. They wear these immaculate white jackets. However, I've been the only guest the whole time I've been in here. A lady did come in, but she was lost. She was looking for directions. It's also great if you're vegetarian. Personally, I'm not vegetarian. I did eat entirely vegetarian food today and it was great, and there's great choice for vegetarians. The only reason for that is because I'm making a film about Diwali, so when in Rome. Before we leave the building, I'll show you the bar on the first floor, which is below the restaurant. If you're in this part of town, it might be a good spot to come and get a quiet drink, have a chat. Like I say, originally this was a separate members club, however today it's open to all. So yeah, if you're into Indian food, there are dishes on the menu of the India Club that you probably won't find anywhere else in London. So for great food, great value for money, for some interesting Indian dishes, it's definitely a place to visit. But let's head out back into the real world.
It's like a time warp in there, back out into reality. Real life. Yeah, it's described as a time warp. It is literally like a time. It's like going to 1940s, early 1950s India. Definitely recommend that place. I'm going to head now from India, colonial India. I'm going to head to southern Mediterranean. Very briefly, still heading the wrong way to Diwali festival. Coffee in Somerset House. Takeaway coffee from Fernandez and Wells. There's a coffee shop in here, Richard. So yeah, from India to southern Mediterranean.
Welcome to Somerset House, originally the site of the Duke of Somerset's London mansion until he was executed, effectively for treason, beheaded on Tower Hill, at which point this site and his mansion fell into the possession of the Crown and was subsequently used as royal palaces or grace and favour homes. Eventually it fell out of fashion, fell into disrepair and was demolished to make way for this Somerset House, which was built over many decades to originally be home to government departments, including the Tax Office and the Navy Office. Eventually the government departments moved out and it's become an arts and culture centre and home to a number of private enterprises like this coffee shop and tapas bar, Fernandez and Wells.
Nice little okay, coffee from Fernandez Wells. Now I feel fat from filled with vegetables and carbs in India Club. Hopefully this, I just got a filter coffee, hopefully it will wake me up so we can go and celebrate Diwali down in Trafalgar Square. Super hot. It's good. Right, let's go and get involved in Diwali down the road. Welcome to London's Trafalgar Square, behind that bus. Let's go and check out this year's Diwali festival.
Diwali is the festival of lights. It celebrates the triumph and victory of good over evil and the glory of light over darkness, a beam of hope over despair and the virtue of knowledge over ignorance. The word Diwali literally means a row of lamps. Diwali marks a new beginning, a renewal of commitment to family values and represents all the good virtues in life. Love, reflection, forgiveness and knowledge. Diwali is celebrated in many countries and by different faiths, along with varying personal and family traditions, so there are many variations in the way Diwali is celebrated. Hindus, Sikhs and Jains celebrate, and here today they will celebrate together as a festival of light. However, the symbolic religious representations of Diwali for each are different.
Yesterday I was here for Africa Day, and this was all African, and today it's all Indian. It's cool.
Typically for Hindus, Diwali is a 5-day festival with the third and main night of Diwali falling on the darkest new moon night of the Hindu lunisolar calendar, which means the exact date moves each year. It's time for friends and family to come together, participate in prayer, celebrate, exchange gifts and feast, which many people in Britain will do not too long after Diwali, and in a similar fashion for Christmas and New Year.
She's a new TV presenter, the humble, the trend-setting presenter of London. Please welcome
So everyone, right leg, right hand up there, left here, and go. Chuka, and down, and chuka, and down, and chuka, and down, and chuka, and the left side, 2, 3, go. Chuka, and down, and chuka, and down. Give me out, and in, give me out, and out. We know how to do this. Chuka, chuka, right? So this is the first and 1 time.
street been closed for the food stalls. That is the busiest part of Diwali so far that I've been to. The food, the street of food stalls smells amazing. Obviously I'm stuffed from lunch at the India Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, a huge Trafalgar Square Diwali welcome for our Apna, Sadda, Hamara, Mayor of London, it is of course Sadiq Khan.
Brothers and sisters, my name is Sadiq Khan. I am the Mayor of London. I want to thank you for your support coming out today. I'm so proud to be your Mayor. And Diwali is a time where Londoners of Hindu faith, Londoners of Sikh faith, Londoners of Jain faith celebrate the festival of lights, from Brent to Barking, from Ilford to Ealing, from Southall to Stratford, from all over London. We have people celebrating this wonderful, wonderful festival. And you know what? There are people here who aren't Hindus, Sikhs and Jains, here to celebrate the teachings of the festival of Diwali. And what are those teachings? Those teachings are how light triumphs over darkness, how good triumphs over evil, and how knowledge triumphs over ignorance. And you know, literally 100 or 200 meters down the road, on Parliament Square, is a statue of Gandhiji, of Mahatma Gandhi, one of the greatest human beings ever to live. And one of the things he says is, be the change you want to see in the world. Think about that. Be the change you want to see in the world. And every day there are Londoners of Hindu, Sikh and Jain faith living the teachings of Gandhiji, whether it's in charity, whether it's in business, whether it's in medicine, whether in entertainment, whether it's in youth work, you are living the teachings of the scriptures, and I thank you very much for doing so. But you know, there are challenges ahead. There are people who want to divide our communities. There are people who want to turn Hindus against Sikhs, Muslims against Christians, Jews against Jains. Are we going to allow them? Are we going to allow them? You know, I think diversity is a strength. And you know, Rajesh said this really well. The great thing about London is we don't simply tolerate each other. I tolerate a toothpick. I don't be tolerated. We respect, we celebrate, and we embrace each other. And it's wonderful to see here in Trafalgar Square tens and thousands of Londoners celebrating the Festival of Lights. You know what? Did the rain stop us? Is the rain going to stop us? We're going to celebrate. So I've been practicing my Bollywood dancing. You know, Rishik has nothing on me. Shah Rukh who? Shah Rukh Khan. So you know, you're going to be practicing your Bollywood, your dhol, whatever it is, because we're going to show the rest of London how wonderful Diwali is. So look, thank you for coming out today. I'm looking forward to the next 2 weeks. It is a new year, and you know, I know my teachings, and we know one of the things that the goddess Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth. And we've got to show those people that post-Brexit, we're still going to have wealth in London. One of the things Rajesh and I have been saying to everyone is 3 very important words. Those 3 words are, London is open. So I want the rest of the world to hear, loud and clear, those 3 words. Are you ready? So after 3, 1, 2, 3. We can do better. 1, 2, 3.
It is absolutely hammering down with rain. I'm going to go and get a quick coffee, and then hopefully the rain will ease off a bit, and I'll come and watch some of the performances. I'll take you to one of London's hidden gems, right here, Trafalgar Square, the crypt of that church. Obviously this is a Hindu festival, but I'm not Hindu, so let's go to a Christian church and get something to drink.
In fact, it doesn't matter whether you're Christian or Hindu at the cafe in the crypt below St Martin's in the Fields Church, because it's open to everyone, regardless of your faith and even if you have none. It's a very tranquil spot, as you can imagine, buried beneath the streets and the church here in very central London. They source everything sustainably, and any profits go towards help support the church's charity work, which is called Connections at St Martin's in the Field, who help and support the homeless here in London. And London's homeless come from all over Britain, and these days from all over the world. So by choosing to come here instead of one of the more corporate coffee shops and restaurants, you'll be doing your bit in a small way to help those that need it most.
This place is like something out of the Da Vinci Code. Great location. They've kept dead down here for, I want to say, centuries. Now it's a coffee shop.
Church crypts were originally built to be vaults for valuable items, religious relics or objects of financial value, not as burial chambers. However, beyond medieval times, that became less of a necessity, and churches discovered that a great deal of income could be earned from interring coffins in them. Churchyards only provided about 3 decades before you were dug up, if you weren't already dug up, by body snatchers in darker periods of British history. It became a sign of nobility and wealth to be interned in one of these spaces. However, at a time when the world had no clear understanding of illness and disease, infection was a mystery, let alone prevention and cure. So burying the dead among the living was a bad idea. After increasing outbreaks of contagious disease in London, a cholera outbreak in 1848 and 1849 resulting in the death of over 14,000 people was the final straw, and burials in London were outlawed in 1851. It was as much an issue of space with so many dead as contagion. So that was the end of the lucrative burial fees for London churches. Once relatives of the interned became unwilling or unable to pay, or untraceable decades later for the already interned, for one reason or another, the removal of human remains from church crypts here in London began.
I think that's the oldest one I can see. 1659. Well, some of these are in Latin, Roman numerals. Right, let's get back to Diwali. This video is going to be a bit more multicultural, multi-faith.
Ultimately, the reason for removing the dead from this church crypt below St Martin's in the Fields was a first. The then vicar in 1915 cleared the crypt to open a canteen for soldiers returning from the front of World War I. And one would imagine he helped them with much more than just food. It remains a canteen of sorts to this day, and is still dedicated to helping people who, as would have been the case in 1915, much of society considered challenging to help.
Which one do you like best?
Still raining, but not so bad. Right, let's leave Christianity and head back over to Hindu Diwali. Okay, the rain is coming down hard again, and I have to make a tough choice of either using the umbrella to cover this camera or me. So I'm going to call an end to the video, the vlog here. I'm going to head back over to the Diwali festival and check out some of the performances underneath my umbrella. So I hope you enjoyed this visit to the India Club, Diwali in Trafalgar Square, Café in the Crypt below St Martin's in the Fields Church. So until next time, toodles. I think there were some strong similarities between the mayor's opening speech and the start of this vlog. So there's a future for both of us. Maybe I can become an MP, maybe he can become a YouTube vlogger. Toodles.
Yeah,